20 Black History Facts You Probably Didn't Know. History is full of interesting events and great people who have shaped the world we live in today. Black history is especially important because of the constant effort to establish justice and equality among people. We can't ignore the hard times these people went through in the fight for freedom. In this article, we'll mention some of the most interesting facts you may not have known about Black history. Number 1. The Dred Scott Case. The Dred Scott case was one of the most significant events in American history. Scott versus Sandford is a long-running legal battle. This case of the struggle for freedom reached the U.S. Supreme Court. The court's decision encouraged the anti-slavery movement and was one of the American Civil War triggers. Number 2. The Chicago Race Riot. When an African-American teenager was drowned on July 27, 1919, fierce protests erupted in Chicago. The incident took place on Lake Michigan, and police didn't arrest the perpetrator. The result of these protests was 23 dead African Americans, as well as over 1,000 burned African American houses. Number 3. The 13th Amendment. This amendment to the American Constitution abolished black slavery. These few sentences on this document have changed the world forever. African Americans finally got freedom. Painful slavery was officially abolished on December 6, 1865, and it's the most critical event in the history of African Americans. Number 4. A black lawyer. The year 1854 is significant for the history of African Americans. John Mercer Langston became the first black man to pass the bar in Ohio. At the time, a black man doing a respectable job was not looked upon favorably. A year later, he became the first black man to be elected to the public office in America. Number 5. Claudette Colvin. Rosa Parks is a person who is very important to the human rights movement. Everyone knows that she refused to give up her seat on the bus to the white man. But little is known that Claudette Colvin had done this 9 months before. Of course, she was arrested. It took incredible courage to do such a thing. These were unreasonable times that didn't allow space for visionaries of freedom like Claudette Colvin. Number 6. House of Representatives. When a black woman was elected to the House of Representatives, American history took a significant turning point. This meant gradually moving towards complete justice, free from all prejudices. The name of this great woman is Shirley Chisholm. She was elected in 1968 as a representative of the state of New York. 4 years later, she became the first woman candidate for the presidency of the United States. Number 7. The First Millionaire. When you were born on a cotton plantation where your ancestors worked as slaves, there is little chance that you'll one day become wealthy. Madam C.J. Walker was born in Louisiana, and with her lifelong struggle and smart business, she became a millionaire. She invented a line of hair care products. This heroine is also known for her philanthropy. Although life didn't give her the best cards at first, she managed to get the most out of it and turn things around in her favor. Number 8. The First Baseball Player. The name of the first black baseball player is Jackie Robinson. After many problems and obstructions, it happened in 1947. Brooklyn Dodgers changed the history of baseball. It should be mentioned that Jackie Robinson was the Rookie of the Year in 1947. Number 9. Brown versus Board of Education. Brown versus Board of Education is another fierce legal struggle for equality. The Supreme Court ruled in 1954 that racial segregation in schools was unconstitutional. This was another essential step in the fight for complete freedom and complete equality. Brown versus Board of Education was one of the foundations of the civil rights movement. Number 10. The Greensboro Sit-In. The Greensboro Sit-In is one of the most exciting events in the last century. In 1960, African American students sat down at a segregated Woolworth's lunch counter in Greensboro and decided not to leave after the service was not provided. This event has spread to other cities in the USA. Although many students were arrested, the result was very positive. Number 11. Joe Louis. Joe Louis was an American hero during World War II. He was the heavyweight champion of the world for 12 long years. His special importance is that his opponent was the German boxer Max Schmeling. You can only imagine how the media covered this story. The African American defeated the representative of Nazi Germany. No wonder Louis was declared a hero. Number 12. Freedom Summer. Freedom Summer is the process of registering black voters in Mississippi. The event is particularly important as 700 white activists supported these efforts. The participants of this event had countless problems by the Ku Klux Klan and local government representatives. Number 13, the Selma to Montgomery March. The Selma to Montgomery is another attempt to establish justice and abolish segregation. These protests took place in Alabama, a state that was deeply divided at the time. African Americans marched from Selma to Montgomery as far as 54 miles. Local authorities committed brutal violence. Even movies have been made about this event. Number 14, Martin Luther King improvised his famous speech. "I have a dream" is one of the most famous sentences ever spoken. The author is Martin Luther King, and the interesting information is that came directly from the heart. Witnesses say that Martin Luther King prepared a speech the day before, but intentionally left his notes. That's how "I have a dream" became a sentence for history. Number 15, shocking numbers. Reliable information says that over 12.5 million black slaves were shipped to the New World during the transatlantic slave trade. It's unbelievable that only 388,000 arrived in the United States of America. Many didn't survive, and some ended up in other countries like Brazil. Despite working locations, most slaves died at an early age. Number 16, Rebellion of 1831. Nat Turner was an enslaved man who in 1831 started a rebellion in which 200 African Americans were killed. Events like this led to the American Civil War. Number 17, the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad is a network of black and white people who helped and offered shelter to slaves fleeing the South. This secret network operated in the 18th century, all the way to the American Civil War. Number 18, Muhammad Ali did not box in his prime. Given that he was explicitly against the Vietnam War, Muhammad Ali refused to join the army. A lesser-known fact is that this happened when he was 26 years old. He was banned from boxing until he was 29 years old. Thus, this great man lost the best years of his career because of humanity. Number 19, Michael Jordan was removed from the team. Before he became a superstar, Michael Jordan was removed from the high school team. However, that didn't stop him from becoming the best player of all time. Basketball is a much more popular sport today, mostly thanks to this great athlete. Number 20, Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi. Little is known that Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi met in India. These great two minds have drastically changed the world. Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence greatly influenced the work of Martin Luther King.